I'm now being joined in the studio by Senator Surajuddin Ajibola Basiru. He is the Chairman Senate Committee on Public Affairs. Distinguished Senator, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon.
You're welcome. Now it will be 2 years of the 9th Assembly in existence, come this Friday, the 11th of June. Now tell us how the body has impacted on the nation's growth and the people.
Actually, self-assessment is prone to accusation of possible bias, but be that as it may, we may have to set some possible objective parameters upon which an assessment of how we have fared in the past 2 years in the Ninth Senate. One of the 3 areas by which an assessment can be made has to do with the constitutional responsibility of the Senate. One is making law for the good governance of the country. Second has to do with oversight function for the purpose of exposing inefficiency and corruption such that the country will have value for money. And third has to do with confirmation of appointment either by the constitution or statutory provision. So these 3 parameter when used, I will say at the risk of sounding immodest that the Ninth Assembly has actually performed creditably well. And I may elucidate, particularly in the area of lawmaking, as the President of the Senate, Dr. Ahmed Lawal, CON, said in the speech at the plenary today. When you look at the impactful nature of an area of our legislative intervention, you will discover that we have performed well in those areas. For instance, when you look at even the economy, unlike the staccato and the absence of symphony in the budget cycle before, we have been able to ensure that we have a predictable budget cycle. The impact of this is realized when you know that the major drivers of Nigerian economy is actually public expenditure. Then you also look at the Federal Finance Act, by which creatively we have been able to amend existing tax legislation in such a way that it makes available a tax as a veritable source of government revenue, while at the same time insulating the vulnerable in the society, particularly as may be exemplified by the Value Added Tax Act, by which, although there was an increment to 7.5%, but small businesses are below the threshold of 25 million turnover were insulated from tax, and also the vulnerable workers were also insulated from personal income tax. And of course, in the area of revenue generation, you can talk of the amendment of the deep offshore and the profit sharing contract, which had been a legislation that had been left unattended to for more than a decade and a half, which has given enablement for additional revenue in that area.
Okay, now I know I believe that several bills were considered. Now, if we would like you to give us an insight into such bills.
Yeah, I've looked at the Appropriation Act, by which I have been able to make funds available for critical sector of the economy, and you can see the creative nature of using appropriation to actually assist in tackling the challenge of pandemic. As at the time that the COVID-19 pandemic came into being, we have perhaps just about 2 molecular laboratories in Nigeria. Today, we have virtually in all the state. You also have testing centers and isolation centers, as well as some other necessary health infrastructure by using creatively the Appropriation Act. Then you look at very important bills like the Banks and Other Financial Institution Act, which had been due for revision for close to 2 decades. You have the Company and Allied Matter Act, which creates the engine room for people to carry business. The Police Act was also amended as part of the effort to address the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. Then, of course, in the health sector, necessary legislative intervention were also made, as well as good oversight in being able to ensure that funds appropriated are actually deployed towards realizing the health objective in addressing the problem of the pandemic. And of course, the other critical area which has to do with the economic sector, you can see that the legislative approval was given to social intervention program of the President Muhammad Buhari administration, such a way that the vulnerable in society have access to some means of economic succor to be able to tackle some of these challenges. Yes, we still are prospecting to do more in the area of economy, in the area of security, and ensuring we meet the expectation of the Nigerian people for security and welfare of the people.
Okay, we would like to know more about that when we get to our last question. Now, would you say the Senate is achieving its legislative agenda?
Yes, I will say, and of course, I will also immediately admit that there are room for improvement. In terms of our agenda, the crux of our agenda is a National Assembly that works for Nigerians. And to that extent, we have dedicated our time, notwithstanding the interregnum of the lockdown of COVID-19, we have been purposeful in ensuring that necessary legislative intervention, necessary oversight intervention are done in a way that creatively assist. And we have also been able to minimize acrimonious relationship, which had been, the hallmark of disincentiveness to progress in the country. So I will say that we'll have been able to, while maintaining our independence as an arm of government, work in a creative manner that will reduce acrimony, and using a very gentle manner to point to the executive in areas where we thought they have not followed the law. For instance, we have had occasion to step down many nominations or refuse to approve certain nominations when the necessary legislative or constitutional provision are not been done. But we all do this with that sense of calmness and belongingness necessary for a cohesive administration.
Okay, now, briefly now, what is the focus for the next 2 years?
Yeah, the focus necessarily have to flow from the expectations of the Nigerian people. If you listen to the retinue of speeches at the floor today, the area that Nigerians have expectation. One, Nigerians are looking toward National Assembly to have constitutional amendment that is genuine and not cosmetic in addressing issue of devolution of power, restructuring and fiscal federalism, and in a way that make the government to be a government that address issue of welfare of the people and, of course, security. Of course, area of security is an area that we have been challenged, and it actually has overshadowed many of the good things that we are doing. Yes. So we are committed in implementing the report of the Summit on Security that the Senate has set up, and also given necessary legislative backing to a decentralization, possibly, of the Nigerian security apparatus.
Thank you so much, distinguished Senator Ajibola Basiru, Chairman, Senate Committee on Public Affairs. We thank you for coming to share your thoughts with us on Nationwide.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.